Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Just another movie night.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We are Just Another Movie Night, and I am Scott.
I'm Joe.
And today we are doing before and after reviews where we go see a brand new movie in the theater, and we give our thoughts before and after. And I think you usually say spoiler-free.
Spoiler-free, of course.
Spoiler-free. It's spoiler-free, guys, okay? We're going to try our best anyway. So we can't always say it's always going to be spoiler-free. Because sometimes we might slip up or just feel like, oh, this means something. Ah, crap.
Yeah.
So hopefully not. Hopefully we're going to be spoiler-free.
We're going to try.
We're going to try our best.
Yeah.
And tonight we are seeing Civil War, directed by Alex Garland, whose previous films have always impressed me. And every time he does a movie, I go to the theater to see them. We're talking about Ex Machina, Annihilation, and last, Men, which was something uniquely insane to behold. And I think all of his films kind of are. I've really enjoyed. He's got a great eye. Yeah. He directs fantastically.
Yeah, he did 28 Weeks Later where they run.
Yeah, he
Zombies
wrote.
Run. I love
wrote
that. Freaking. Oh my god, it scared me.
He didn't direct it, right? He's the co-writer on all those films. So I think he wrote them all with Danny Boyle.
I think he executive produced it. Yeah, but he's listed as an uncredited writer on that one. 28 Weeks Later.
Oh, yeah, probably because hit the characters or the concept. Mm-hmm. They're actually writing the third one right now.
Yeah, 28 years later.
Yeah, I think they just started casting, so I think they got it all together.
I'm here for it.
Oh yeah,
it's
me
a horror
too.
Movie.
Me too. I'm super stoked for this movie tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I guess the concept is the scariest thing. I guess I always point this out, but I guess I should say this. My favorite type of horror films are the ones that deal with a realism or things that really affect your real life, but it's like the worst case scenarios that you feel are possible.
Yeah.
And I love that. He does stuff with that. Psychological horror. I think that's way better to me. And I know a lot of people don't even see certain movies like this as horror films. I do. I see these movies. I see all of his movies as horror films.
Yeah, well, I feel like this is a horror film just based on the trailer, because this is something that's terrifying that actually could happen to our country.
It feels like it is.
It feels like it's already has started because of how the world is right now.
I know, and it's so crazy that it's listed as action, epic, and action.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that. To me, this feels completely like psychological horror. It feels almost like The Purge.
Yeah.
But more of a realistic thing that, what if? Because I think in this movie, this is crazy. Nick Offerman is playing the president. Mm-hmm. And he seems to be inciting the riots, which is obvious metaphor for our political climate right now and what's going on. Mm-hmm. And they put out some great marketing where they show all the states on the map completely what sides they're all taking and how there's different factions for each separated state.
Yeah, so it seems like they all have like different divisions in the United States of their factions.
It's so crazy. It's like you can see like Texas and California are together and Florida and Georgia. Yeah. And then there's like the whole northern. So it's like going to be this insane civil war with all these different factions fighting each other and taking over each state and overthrowing their governments.
That's scary as hell.
It's scary as all hell. I mean, I find it so creepy, but so fascinating. And I also feel like it's a ballsy film to make. I
Yeah.
feel like this is going to be one of those movies that people are either going to be talking about it a lot or just completely saying screw that movie because I don't like what they're trying to say.
Right.
I'm really fascinated by that. I love to hear what everybody's thought process is on this film.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually really hoping to hear more about people seeing it and having their thoughts on it. You know, right now I think I've heard there's like a overwhelming, like good rating system going on about it. I haven't looked into it. I'm trying not to see anything. I usually don't, but I've heard some rumors about a lot of people liking the film overall.
Oh, okay.
I've of course have also seen other people going screw that movie. So it's a weird thing. It's
I
a weird
haven't
thing.
read or heard anything about it. I'm
Yeah.
trying to stay, you know,
And I would say
off
though
there.
that feels very in line with his movies in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think both Annihilation and Men are very, you know, debated of whether people love it or they hate it, regardless.
Yeah, because
So
Men is also a very strange film, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, like, you have to use your imagination.
I think that's one of the things that I love, and I think that's the reason we started doing a podcast in general, is because after every time we go see movies, which we love, we would have long conversations about it. But it doesn't always happen. A lot
Right.
of the times we would just watch a movie that was pretty, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been so many movies that we've walked out of, and we've had long conversations or debates about what the movie meant, or what one of us saw over the other. And I think that's why we started doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
And excuse me, Jesus, one of his movies in particular, Men, like we were just saying, is one of those films we came out of and we were just talking about it.
Yes.
And I was in shock. I actually didn't know how to talk about it for a good 5 minutes
Me either.
after walking out of the theater. I was just like kind of smiling and saying,
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen anything like that. And I adore that.
It was a very different film, for sure. It was
Yeah.
very different.
And seeing as how all of those movies we named that he's already done, they've all had those elements to it. I don't see this movie having that. This movie seems a little more straightforward in the sense of what it is about.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything behind closed doors. You know, like, I think that this is going to be very in your face, and there's not going to be anything to the imagination.
I agree. I think that it's going to completely be on the surface. I don't think there's going to be a metaphor. I think the metaphor is very apparent.
I mean, they're
is
going
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
making a point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yes,
the metaphor
but-
is apparent. I don't think it's going to be like Annihilation or Men, where
no.
it's more. You guys tell me what do you think,
Right.
Which I'm not a big fan of usually. I usually want creators to tell people this was what I intended. This is my message. I don't like it when a lot of people go, well, what do you think? I like it open to your interpretation. No, I kind of want to know exactly what your headspace was, what things mean to you, because I really like seeing movies through that lens of what the artist intends. Like, I understand that there is a place for that open to interpretation, but it's not always great because
Right.
a lot of times I feel like the creator, the movie was so messy that that's like a fallback. Oh, it's up to your interpretation.
Yeah,
It's like it's kind of a cop out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So I hope this movie doesn't do that. And I think that's the worst case scenario for
I
me.
don't think they're going to do that. No, I don't think. No, I'm going in with a good attitude on this one. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. Yeah, and also good actors. Again, the running joke with Kristen Dunst and Jesse Plemons, who are married in real life, constantly showing up in each other's properties that they're working on.
I think it's cute.
Yeah, I doubt he's going to be in it very much. Probably going to be a cameo that the trailer is using because they know that he's a good actor and people like him.
Yeah, he is a really good actor.
Yes.
He is. So, and I like her. I don't mind her at all.
Yeah, which I love to see her doing a movie where she's like the lead. I think that's something really fascinating about this movie as well, is the actors aren't the biggest like blockbuster draws. There's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
like the last few movies have been like somebody very hot at the moment. Well, I guess not Men as much either, although we like that actress.
We like Jessie Buckley.
Yeah. The movies before that, like Natalie Portman is the lead, and in Men you have Oscar Isaac, They were all on the top of like their game, the games. It's interesting seeing more smaller roles. Like seeing Nick Offerman play the president is an interesting pick that I'm really fascinated to see.
Yeah, we like him. So
He can do anything. And after seeing him on The Last of Us, really impressed.
Oh yeah, he was good in that.
It makes me even more excited to see him get more serious stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's always getting those characters. Like, unfortunately, he's one of those people who got typecast a little bit because of Parks and Rec, playing that one character, doing that voice, that serious, stoic thing. But after seeing The Last of Us, I was like, oh, everybody's got to get this guy in more stuff.
Yeah, he's
Give
great.
him more things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go see this movie.
All right, let's go check it out.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
We're moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death.
What?
Every time I survived the war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car! Move, move, move!
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
Hello, everybody. We're back. We just saw Civil War by Alex Garland. And this is an interesting one. I think that we have some stuff to talk about with trying also not to really spoil things, but I don't really think that this is a movie to spoil. In fact, I think we should get it out of the way right off the bat. Just about how I think some people will be angry, and I'm not sure, we haven't talked about it yet. Of course, we always wait to talk on the podcast with each other after seeing a movie. But I definitely think that there will be a disconnect with audiences. And I said that, and I think I said it in the before. I mentioned how he can play with an audience. I don't know. I don't even know what we said in the before anymore. But I feel like with Alex Garland movies, he's always kind of warping what you think you're about to watch.
Yes, I agree
And
with
he
that.
plays with expectation, and he definitely throws out that kind of stuff and bringing you on a different kind of journey. Now, I will say that I think where this movie will divide people will be how it was marketed. Because I definitely think a lot of people will be going into this movie thinking it was going to be mostly a war movie about America in the political climate being torn into civil war. Now, that is in this movie, but I will say that it's cleverly done as a backdrop. And I will say that it's not going to be that movie. So I feel like it's needed to be said that this isn't going to be that type of movie, and the marketing did play up that war, and maybe explaining itself more would be a part of this movie, but it's not. And I don't know how you feel about that aspect.
I cannot tell a lie. I was also one of those people that went in thinking that very same thing.
Okay.
The very same thing that you just described.
I had a feeling that this, because like I said, how could this be a movie? Like, how would they make this into a short form movie when this could be something that could be a mini-series event, if that's what it was? And so I knew there was going to be some kind of different aspect of it that Alex Garland would want to explore. And I think it's there. Do you find that because of that, you have a disappointing outlook coming out?
Yes.
Okay.
100% I do.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about because real to get into talking about the movie a little bit and trying not to spoil, I think it's very necessary to kind of explain what the movie is. And because I think it is important, because I think a lot of people will be going in with either that outlook of wanting what you were saying that, or the outlook of, no, let me see what thing that he's going to give me and be okay with it. Those people are definitely going to enjoy it. But that other camp might be very disappointed, but they also might come out with something to praise. So the movie is really about war journalists and news and the news and how I don't, it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to talk about, right? Like, it's really about journalism in times of war and how people who do that job get consumed by it and consume it. Mm-hmm. And I think what's really smart is that it's with a backdrop of the most extreme event in journalists from America, which would be messing with the ideas of what our political climate is right now and how what we feel like we're becoming. And what is really, I think, is clever is you're never told who is who and what exactly is going on, but I feel like it's there, and I think that either side of the political landscape could see what they want. And I think that's why it was done. Mm-hmm. I think it was creatively separated to have people not necessarily need to have their side told or see that. I think it was done in a way where it's like, no, this is just in general how insane this is.
Yeah. That
everybody needs to see this is just insane. And the movie plays, there's a great scene in this movie where they're driving down the road and there's Christmas ornaments all over the road. And they are randomly being shot at, and they find two soldiers who are also shooting at the person shooting at them. And there's a discussion where, they discuss who is it that you're shooting at? And they said, what do you mean? It's someone who's shooting at us. Mm-hmm. And that's that whole statement, that whole scene kind of sums up the movie. It's not about, it's just who's taking shots at who.
Right.
It doesn't matter whose side I'm on. It doesn't matter that person shot at me. I have to shoot back at them.
Right.
And that could be said for almost everything, between debates, arguments. That's a perfect, just to sum up what's going on in the background and how the journalists are capturing that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're okay with watching a personal journey of journalism and seeing the human aspect of becoming desensitized and almost inhuman and becoming the camera and becoming the information, then I think that this is definitely something that you could enjoy. Now, I don't know how you feel about all of that. How do you feel like?
No, I like the way that you explain the plot. However, there was a lot of things that were happening on the screen everything was happening in ludicrous speed. So things were happening pretty quick a lot of the time. Sometimes there were some down moments, but for the most part it was really quick, and I had trouble differentiating who is the good guy and who is the bad guy.
That was a point. Yeah, that's what I was just meant.
I know that's what you were going for when but I feel like I thought that was kind of messy.
Well, I think that it was the most intelligent way to approach this, because you have an uphill battle. If you call out one side of the the landscape of politics and who people are voting for and what and all that, if you call out one side, you're calling attention to yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think this was really smart and clever, saying you take what you want from it, who is who and what is what and what it means to you, because This is more about how absurd everything is, and just how absurd the idea that this is a possibility. And I think that's what the movie's really going for. And I think if they did call it aside, they would have a nightmare on their hands.
There would be too much
And so
controversy.
exactly,
I don't think that Alex Garland wanted that.
and that's why I feel like what he did do was probably the smartest approach that you could bring to it.
It was well done and it was smart.
Yeah.
He did it the smart way. Rather than enraging one particular group of people or another group of people,
Yeah.
he it was very vague
Exactly.
and also terrifying.
And really in in like war journalism, the people go in with the idea that one side that they're following, watching the other side fight, is who is the good and the bad. They can't really choose. They have to capture the moments. And the movie is, since it's that from their point of view, we're kind of getting that. We're seeing who is the good guy and the bad guy. We're the ones watching the news and judging.
Yeah.
So the audience is forced into that position, which is very clever. But I will say, because of this, there is an automatic implanted feeling of dissatisfaction. Because I feel like fundamentally you kind of want to see that thing that you're hoping to see, like, or see someone show what it is. But I do see that was an impossibility.
Yes, I understand
Yeah.
the impossibility. Yes, 100%. However, I feel that the trailer of this film, whatever this
The marketing too.
yeah, the marketing and the trailer, whatever brought, the butts to the seats was one big deception, because a lot of what's happening in the trailer is not what you're getting on the screen. There are certain aspects going from like the cast to the plot where you are not getting what you're seeing on the screen. You're just not.
I mean, everything in the marketing is in the movie. Nothing is really not in the movie. It's just the plot isn't being told to you.
Well, this is not really a spoiler, but I will say that you and I were both saying that Kirsten Dunst and her husband Jesse Plemons, how cool is that? They're working together again.
And I said, I think he's probably in a cameo.
And yeah,
And I'm like, they used it because people know him.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, that sucks.
I mean, yeah, I did point that out, that my belief would be that he would be a side character, and that people in this movie, and I said that it's cool to see Nick Offerman. Unfortunately, he also is more of a cameo. This isn't about those characters. This is really about our core group of 4 characters on a trip through this war-torn country.
Yes.
And yeah, I definitely think that, like I said, there is a sense of dissatisfaction that comes from that. But what I feel like he is playing with us, and he knows that that's a thing. And I feel like he wanted to tell an important kind of story. And definitely to get people in the seats, he's telling it through another lens, which is clever. And I also think it's very clever. The movie starts with an audio test, which I found very interesting overall, and seeing it kind of play with my expectations of like what he's going for. And I said this in the beginning, I'm never happy when a creator doesn't exactly tell us what he's meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, I personally just don't like that. I do feel it is really interesting to make a movie and say, hey, I made some art, what do you think about it? And I like to hear your thoughts. Cool. But it made me think one way when I don't think I'm supposed to be thinking that one way. But starting with the audio test, I'm like, oh, he is not only talking about journalism, but maybe our consumption of media in general, all kinds of forms of media.
Yeah, that's what I kind of got too, because it was there was a lot of different kinds of journalism going on here, even though they basically just ran around with their cameras most of the time. I still felt like I have to talk to you off podcasts about it, but I do agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting, either telling us, oh, this is just a test type of thing, not by using that, but he was using a test of audio equipment in the movie theater, which I think was almost a joke about how we watch movies as an art form, and using the idea of the desensitized pictures in the movie that we watch these characters take. And they're brutal. The movie starts off with brutal photography pictures, like some insane visuals. And I was like, he is definitely talking about how we're so desensitized to violence in a sense. And I found it very clever. I found it very interesting. But yeah, like I said, you're still on that road where you're thinking about, well, this isn't exactly what I was hoping or thinking it was.
Yeah.
And so you have that clash in your mind. While I find this clever and interesting, I also have that fight inside of my mind. Well, let's talk about some other things about it. The immersion, like just being immersed into this world.
I felt almost terrified.
Yeah.
Because there are so many aspects of this movie that scared me. Not even them being thrown in the thick of the shooting and things like that. I mean, just them driving down the road. I was terrified, not knowing what is around the corner, if there's, someone gonna take them out, or, these are just journalists, and they seem to have neutral ground. So wherever they go, they seem to be allowed in by both sides, because they are just reporting on the war. But I still felt terrified for them.
Yeah, because they automatically set up the idea that no, certain sides want to kill the news. Yeah. And we definitely are seeing that in our reality right now, that people don't trust the media and like news at all. And the movie kind of sets you up with that tone where you feel like while you're watching them, you're like, you just talked about how you could die any minute, and now you're running into these events, and you're kind of torn in that sense too. You're like, but I think that's definitely the message of like how willing to sacrifice themselves just to get it out there that these things are happening.
I mean, in all fairness, though, there were a few characters in this movie that were actually terrified, that didn't want to take that step, didn't want to go that extra mile. They held back. They were scared. And I feel like I identified with those characters even more than, say, like Kirsten Dunst's character. She was like an award-winning journalist, a very famous one, I guess. And she looked completely desensitized to all of it, like you were saying, until she didn't.
Yeah, there's a trip with her character, an entire arc of her character that is not specifically told to you, but it is shown to you, which is the point of the entire movie, I think, is showing you that, because we have another character who is the complete, opposite of that. We watch her from going from, completely green, completely new, and getting to, while watching them completely flip in their arcs, and seeing how that easy it is to become that. And I think that is a very interesting story to tell. And I think that Dunst in particular really nailed it. Like, I feel like she is completely void of emotion, but we see slowly emotion slipping into her.
Right.
And it is very well done and very well acted on her part. She is the most stone-faced and completely heartless you have ever seen her act.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why I said that. I'm like, because she's desensitized until she's not.
Yes.
And it was such a great, I think it was a really great acting switch for her, like to be able to play those two parts.
Yeah.
And I really like the cast. I thought the cast was pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like some of it could be a little too, like, I'm trying to find the right word for it,
I
but
think you're thinking of cliche because I was thinking that too.
I
Because
don't know if cliche it is it, but a little hammy on the side of being a
well,
little too melodramatic, maybe.
yes, but when you think about the group of characters that we have here, you got the old man, you got the young gung ho new fresh faced journalist, you got the in grandfathered in journalist
That was,
who's Kirsten Dunst,
but that was all done purposely.
and then you got
That what
the comedy relief. His name's Joel.
he's not the comic relief.
I mean, he does have funny moments in this, a lot of them, like where he's trying to make jokes and be wacky and stuff.
I guess.
Yes.
I actually think that those were all specifically done on purpose. The two men in this car are just like the two photographers. They're exactly the old and the new.
Right.
But that was done on purpose to watch them flip because the new version getting in the middle of it, being completely high off the adrenaline of the war around him, while the other just wants to report on the importance. He's more of a desk journalist or a news, like on the news behind the desk reporting. He's that kind of a journalist where he's that old school, and watching them go to these locations being forced into different situations is definitely picked on purpose. And I think that's why that's done. And that's why I don't want to call it cliche, but I do feel like a little melodramatic. There are scenes of characters kind of just like joking when they shouldn't, or it's not like joking, but being overly emotional in moments where it feels very odd. And I feel like other characters, it could feel, especially one of its ending, some of it could feel a little melodramatic, a little to the point where it could turn people off. I understand almost every single thing of why it was chosen and why it was done, and I find it pretty clever overall. But we were talking about the immersion thing, and I wanted to just say that when you were talking about how they were going from thing and you were kind of like just nervous from scene to scene, one of the most brilliant things done in the movie is that they have you in quiet moments of complete just inner, these experiences of what these people are going through, little like quiet moments of going into these situations of nervous moments, and then the next shot will be of a war zone. And it will just wake you out of whatever trance you're in for that moment. And when they put you in those war zone moments, it feels so real. It just feels like very intense. The last 10 minutes of this movie, or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is super tense. And it just comes at you. And you don't even know what, like you only know 4 characters here. You know? And so all these things are happening and people are talking and you're like, just on the, what the fuck, what is happening? And it is very well shot, and it is very, and I like what you said. You said it is scary in that sense. Like, like
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying in the sense that it feels all too real.
It does. Like, I mean, anything can happen in that situation. It's so, I mean, we've seen a lot of war movies, but this one, I don't know what hit differently about it. I guess because they were just, I mean, basically civilians, but it was very intense moments. I mean, there was some real just gritty things going on where they would just walk past or drive over a dead body and it was just commonplace, I felt like it was cringy, it was like, oh my God.
Yes.
There's a lot of that in this.
Yeah, it is very, and I think there was a person in our theater behind us kind of like getting mad at how a journalist would react in a war. Well, unfortunately, that's exactly how these people are. They're put into these crazy war zone things, and they have to get you the information. If they don't do it, who is?
Right.
And that's why I was like saying before how I don't really know what his intention fully is, because I do feel that it could also be seen as an news in a way, or anti-violence in a way where it's just it's so on the right on the blade, right on the tip of the blade, where you don't know what side it's falling down, but you know it's on there, and you feel so scattered of what his choice is, what his true intent is, but the entire film. And that's the thing about doing the before and after reviews with us. This is us right out of the movie. So
Yeah.
we haven't even discussed it. We're just kind of marinating on everything. Everything's just kind of sitting in there, stewing in a big pot. And I gotta say, that is one of the reasons I particularly love this director. All of his movies get you thinking for days.
Yes, they do. Yes.
And I definitely think
That's
this is
true.
one of those movies that will continue to grow in ideas of what it was about, what his intention is, what what he might be saying, and I cannot wait to see more people talk about it, to kind of get my thoughts, your thoughts, all kind of melded in with all these other people talking about it and seeing what that one true feeling, that's what that is about, come out. And it's never easy to do the before and after, because right after we're always like, how do we talk about this movie? How do we start tackling it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this one was a tough one.
And there's certain directors. I think we have a handful of directors that we come out and we're like, how exactly do we tackle this? Some movies are very straightforward. We can just discuss. But other movies, like, I mean, God forbid we'll ever see a David Lynch movie again in the theater. Probably not. But he's like one of those directors where you just go, how do we discuss this?
Yeah.
Where do we start? How do we end? What are the pros and cons? And it's kind of hard to even come up with pros and cons when it's a movie that every little thing is intended for a reason. And you know it. You can feel it. But you also just can't pinpoint that thing over this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. But with that being said, do you have any cons and pros that want to point out that are standing out to you the most?
I would say that okay, let's start with the pros. The cinematography was really, really great.
Special
and
effects.
The special effects, some of the shots that Alex Garland captured were absolutely brilliant. Brilliant shots. It was very well directed and very well acted. I wish only as like a con, I guess I would say that I feel like I needed a little bit more here. And I know, like, we already just, we discussed it. It's hard to give us more. It's really hard because you'll upset, either end of the aisle, you don't want to do that. But I just feel like I needed a little bit more, and I wanted a little bit more of the characters that were involved in this to be in the movie more. But otherwise, I was very intrigued and I was very entertained watching this and on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, the movie begins in a way where we're just thrown into it. It's It's been happening for a very long time. It's been a bit because the states have completely divided into territories. And so we are just thrown into that and have to automatically be
just
accepting of this concept.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really creepy thing, is that it is very easy to accept. And I think that is another horrific thought. Is that when you see it, your mind doesn't it processes it. At least mine did, processed it really quickly. Okay, these places are all divided up, and the territories. There's a part where there's an American flag with only 2 stars, and it's like, good Lord, I can see this. I can feel this. I hate that I can feel this as a reality, but I am so quickly being like, okay, even though that I'm not getting information now. What you were saying, could I use the half an hour extra of just showing us backstory for the characters and showing you maybe the day one and then jumping in and
Yeah.
going into it
I need
more,
a little bit more. I
then
needed more.
I
Yeah.
think I could have used that the day where it started, like day one, and then jumping to now. What I think that definitely would have done something, but obviously it's not a part of his grand scheme of what he's trying to get at, and that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it's a very iffy situation, and it does make my review or score of it lessen.
Yeah.
Because I definitely feel like there is something that you're left wanting.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. It's that weird double-edged sword thing, right? It's just so odd.
I wanted to come out of this with a 7, but I am not coming out of it with a 7. I think I'm going to have to go with a 6 on this.
Okay. All right. So 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going 7.
Okay.
I wanted to go 8.
I mean, I liked it more. It was not a mediocre film, but it was also all over the place, and you'll have to see it to understand. But I needed more from it, I guess. And I know I'll never, I would never get it, but it's just I needed it, and and that's how I feel about it.
Just to point out a scene. There's a scene where a random car comes, and there's 2 cars, and people get into each other's cars. Mm-hmm. That moment was not done particularly well to set up the dramatic events that are coming. And I
Right.
feel like there was so much smarter stuff that could have been done in this.
Yeah.
That scene felt very out of character for the world that they were in. And I didn't like that. It really, I think a great example of this is the movie Children of Men, where you really feel that how the world is torn in some kind of terrorist way. And in that movie, anywhere you go, any situation, you feel like you're really stuck in the middle of this war-torn thing. And I feel like this movie could have used that a little better in those kind of scenes instead of having that moment that feels a little lighthearted. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work, but maybe it's smart to build the tension for later. But I don't think it necessarily clicks. I think the movie has a lot of that where scene is not clicking with another scene. But I do respect this movie, and I do think it's better than that smaller score. I definitely have to go 7.
Okay. All
But
right.
you know how close that was.
Yeah.
For me, it could have so easily elevated by
Yes.
just changing little things, by taking it just a little more serious. I know, like, I feel like there's this weird thing where I don't want movies to be nihilistic or extremely dark,
Yeah.
but then I kind of want it. And seeing some of the movies that he has written, like Sunshine and 28 Days Later and those movies are very dark, very bleak. And seeing like lighthearted movies and like moments in his movies always jar me. Like it just doesn't feel right.
That's what I'm telling you about the comic relief guy. He's not technically the comic relief guy, but he does make inappropriate comedic, notions and jokes and stuff when it's not necessary or even it doesn't fit. So
Yeah, I also had a point about that actor. I don't know if he was he doesn't feel like the right choice of an actor for that character. He brought a little bit of I think that melodramatic thing that I was talking about before, something about him I think wasn't clicking with me with the whole movie. Mm-hmm. I think that was a definite part of it that made me soured a little bit. But yes, there is something here to talk about.
Yeah.
I definitely think. All right. So that's our thoughts. Did you have any last ending thoughts there? Nothing else?
no, we gotta
All right.
talk off camera because it's spoilers. So I have questions.
So we're going to be seeing Henry Cavill's new film next week, I believe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, hit us on social media. We are at Instagram or Joe is at Crafty Misfit, and I am at Just Another Movie Night. Hit us up, talk to us, share information, thoughts, dreams, games, whatever the hell it is. And see you later. Have a good one. Bye.
God bless America.